Welcome to the Last Poll podcast. I'm here with Kiba. Hey, man. You know, you're like a PvP god. I heard you
So I've
really
been
like
told,
Scourge, like a lot. Heard it's your
you
favorite
know,
class, number one most played.
it's 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 like I just got like a body pillow because I love it so much. It's got like a scourge emblem on it. So every night when I go to sleep, I just
It's
turn over and
there.
just squeeze it. Yep, it's
It
there.
consoles you into a state of sleepiness.
So much I love it. Yeah.
Of
It was a
course.
great idea to change transfusions and not have any sort of contingency plan to say like, what do we do if this just breaks the game, you know?
Well, the answer to that is we wait 5 months until the expansion, and then we'll fix it. I actually think, okay, so for people who have no idea what we're talking about, in the monthly automated tournament in July, there was 1 million Scourges. Scourges were just the most popular class, and it's because they're extremely tanky because of a change to transfusion. I don't know necessarily all the details, not quite as in tune with PvP, but all I know is I've played maybe 10 PvP matches, and there are a lot of necromancers. A lot.
TLDR for that. Basically, you can now proc your own marks as a necromancer, and they also, instead of just conditions, they give boons. So you know, staff 5 on a necro was already like really strong because it feared your opponent, but now it also gives you stability on top of fearing your opponent. So like there's a million ways to play that. Now I think the change to transfusion honestly is not the like it's a in a vacuum, it's a good change, right? But when you include all the different bloat that we have as far as like trait lines, amulets, relics, runes, like it gets like infinitely worse when you stack like all the strongest traits together, and that's what you have. Literally a scourge. Um, it was created because of that, and so really like just taking one or two things out, like I wouldn't mind keeping transfusions if we are able to like nerf like the overall core abilities of a scourge. I think that could make a huge difference, because then that for me allows other necro classes to play the game. Like maybe we'll see Reaper come back, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but for now, you will fight into the barrier and you will enjoy it. You will be feared and you will have no counterplay because they have stability.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the function skills definitely need to rework maybe overall. But yeah, barrier was a mistake in my opinion. Like that's a whole different argument in itself, at least for PvP. And
Oh,
then
it was definitely a mistake in PvE. I don't even know about PvP, but it's definitely a mistake in PvE. Are you aware of some of the crazy stuff that you can do because of barrier? Like, okay,
not
a small history lesson about barrier and PvE. There are certain bosses that do like a set percentage of health damage with specific mechanics. So for a good example of this is Veil Guard. I can't actually think of any other examples, but Veil Guardian is a good example of this because Veil Guardian, it'll do like 80% of your health when the green blows up. But guess what that means? It doesn't account for barrier. This means that, coincidentally, Scourge is actually crazy on that fight because right before the green's about to go off, you just pop all your barrier and then people don't die. They don't go to 20% HP because you've essentially completely mitigated what should be a pretty important mechanic in the in the fight. But yeah, and then this was a few years ago, probably 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. This was like pre Scrapper nerf. Do you remember the days when Scrapper would do like an insane amount of its HP and barrier? Do you
yeah,
remember that?
yeah,
Even in
yeah.
PvP, I think it did like quite a lot more. They decided to nerf that, and rightfully they nerfed pretty much all of the class traits that gave you health. Like they did it to Scourge, they did it to Virtuoso, I think at some point too. That was much later though. But Scrapper used to just pump its own barrier. So I used to go into raids and play DPS Scrapper, and it turned out that you could overcap on your precision because of trait lines. What that meant was that I could actually take about 1200 toughness without losing anything. So I would take 1200 toughness as a scrapper, and I would DPS tank everything. And I would just do full DPS rotation on the boss, and I was unstoppable because I would just pump so much barrier, I couldn't die. And I did this on pretty much every boss in the game. It was incredibly powerful. But yeah, they eventually did nerf that. So barrier is definitely a mistake because it also just trivializes a ton of fights. And if you have to, the real problem with barrier in PvE is if you have to game design around barrier, it means that barrier is necessary on every fight. So they introduce it, and then suddenly it's like, well, we can't live without it now, or barrier will just break the encounter. Kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. I think, yeah. I mean, obviously they can't take it back, but it would be nice if we saw like a true hard cap on barrier for all classes, just universally, where yeah, we won't allow anyone to go over 2 or 3,000 barrier. Like that would be a good
I
hard
think it's
cap in
at
my
50% HP right now, which is a
that's too
crazy
much.
number.
Ten
And you know what?
percent.
Okay, listen to this. This is even crazier. I don't know if you know about this, but in Wing 2 of Raids, if you fight Sloth and you bring all Scourges, you can stand in the middle. So I don't know how well you know Raids, but in Sloth, there's like this poison field all around, and it does ticking damage and gives you poison, which of course reduces healing effectiveness. But Scourge, their F2, you can cast like every 4 seconds, and it converts a condition into a boon. So on that fight, if you run like 8 Scourges, or probably even fewer, you can all just stack in the middle and just do your full rotation. And you'll never die because the ticking damage can't compete with the amount of barrier that everyone's pumping out. And then the conditions are just removed constantly by all the Scourges. So you're just immortal. You just stand in the middle and you just annihilate everything. It's incredible.
That's so dumb. I didn't know that. So funny enough, I did try a few raids like a couple weeks ago, just like as a guild group, right? Going in blind. That was one of the fights that we were kind of strategizing. But after hearing this, I feel like I'm just gonna cheese it because why not? The game
Yeah.
allows me to, right?
Yes. So a few fun facts about that. The ticking damage is dodgeable as well, and you can also block it. So if you go in there and you're not using Scourges, the strategy would be like, you know how you get the special action key? You can dodge into the poison, put the special action key growing poison thing against a wall so that the surface area half goes into the wall, and then you dodge out of the poison so that you're taking minimal damage. You can also use one of your channeled blocks. This is again why a scrapper is actually quite good there, because you can use hammer 4 to just eat some of that poison tick, and then you can use hammer 3 to get back to the boss with the evade frames, which is pretty crazy.
I mean, I think that overall that sounds fun more than anything with the scrapper thing, but the scourge thing just doesn't. I mean, I think it's minimal effort, maximum like reward,
Yep.
and that's
Mm.
not very healthy in any mode
I'll
for
give you
me.
another example of fun. You know the shake attack? You guys probably died to that.
Yeah, once or twice we did. The twerking is what I was called. It was called twerking in my squad, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the shake attack. It's where Sloth shakes, then all these like poison things go out and it just eviscerates your group with conditions. Well, if you go into the middle of the hitbox and jump up and down with an invulnerability skill, you will absorb all of the shakes and completely make your entire squad immune to that attack. So, as you can imagine, what class has a built-in invulnerability? Mesmer. So you
Yeah.
just use distort and jump up and down, and boom, it's done. It's over.
Oh god, I think this next mesmer isn't supposed to give like invulnerability to allies as well now.
Yeah, we can talk a
Like
little bit
the
about that. I think it's really interesting.
because I
Troubadour, which, look, why
mhm.
did they call it that? Can we all agree that they should have just called it Bard? It's very confusing to me. I look at it and I'm like, that's a Bard, but whatever. I
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that they're considering distort share again, because distort share is so powerful. I thought, okay, well maybe if they do it, they'll make it so that it's like a second or like less than a second. But didn't they say it was 2 seconds? Oh, that's so powerful and so forgiving.
Yeah, it is. And like, I'm just scared because PvP is becoming less about like skill and more about, I mean, and it was before, but it's there's like that like fine line where once you go like the tipping point, it doesn't feel like there's any way back. Scourge was like the kind of the first sign of that, where I played Scourge in the monthly. I think I've never touched Scourge like really. I have like maybe 2 hours on it. I just pressed buttons and I just didn't die. Like even getting attacked by 2 or 3 people at times,
Did you
right?
make it to the
So,
semis like that?
well, we made it. Yeah, we made it to the quarters like that. Right? Because I think in this meta, it's definitely about who's running the most optimal comp. That's why USA lost the first game. They switched their comp, and then they ended up winning with 2 Mirages. So I feel like, yeah, it definitely has a lot to do with it now. And that was the
Did they
point. Like
play 3 Scourge, 2 Mirage?
3 Scourge, 2 Mirage, and then
That's
the other
nuts.
team that they had, the other team that they fought was 3 Scourge, 1 Mirage, and then 1 Rev. So it's you can see where the discrepancy was.
The
The
one
Mirage, the
Mirage
1 Rev,
Rev.
the 1 Rev.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
feel a bit. When PvP has changed a lot over the years. Like I have like almost 7,000 PvP games. One thing that I really struggle with is when I go into PvP now, and this could be a get good noob moment for me, and that's totally fine. I accept my fate. But when I play PvP now, I really don't feel like it's about skill. In ranked at least, right? I go into ranked and I'm like, man, it's largely like who won the matchmaking roulette, and then it's who has the most busto classes on their team. that's that's what it feels like all the time. It feels like the general knowledge of PvP and like how to do rotations and stuff. It's it's just gone. There's just not a lot of very competitive people playing ranked anymore. And that's fine, I guess. But it like I've been playing a few PvP matches here that I think I've probably played 15 to 20 matches this season. And I was playing Tempest for fun.
Hmm.
I was playing like support Tempest with staff. And I just cannot get my teammates to use me as a support. Like they're constantly teleporting out of my res. They're constantly running away from me when I'm trying to heal them. They randomly like our players will just go to the far node and I have to follow them into their demise. Like it's just a really weird feeling. I think the average skill level has declined quite a lot over time. That's my take.
There's like, yeah, ranked doesn't like, because it doesn't work. Like to me, when I look at ranked, like the mode itself isn't doing what it should. Like ATs and Conquest like are what Conquest should be. Like ATs really define it, where you have like a team that's coordinated and working together. They're playing, but ranked seems more for me. How I find success in ranked is like two ways: is killing their worst players like all the time. That's all I do. Even if I'm on, let's say I like to play Rev, right? Like roamer hybrid DPS. So for like my priority is like do the plus ones, decap or back cap nodes, and then like match team fights at the end. But in ranked, it's like, well, if their worst player is a side noder and I'm maybe the best player on my team, like it is inherently wrong for me to prioritize that, like especially if it's their node. But if I can kill them in 2 seconds, it really doesn't matter. And I think that's where like changing that mindset of ranked is just, it's kind of like noob farming in a way, right? And then don't die. Those are my two biggest successes: is you don't die and you just farm their worst player. The rest of it kind of, you can kind of trust your teammates to do well after that. But that's not healthy either for me, right? Like I don't want to play ranked just to focus on killing their worst player. You know what I mean?
No, I never really thought about it like that. That's a really good point. And what came to my mind initially was I played. In some places don't have men's volleyball, but in Canada we have men's volleyball, and I played quite competitively, and I was pretty good. I played the setter position. I also played outside, and in volleyball, when you're serving, you always go after the worst passer, right? Like you always like the coach is giving you signals, like they'll put up a 4 or 2, and that's a position on the court, and it's typically like, hey, you're trying to split two players or you're trying to pick on someone, and there were times when you would like pick on someone to the point where they get subbed out, or you'd pick on someone to the point where they're pinched, which means like they would slide back and then everyone would kind of move over so that they wouldn't be able, like everyone could essentially like take the ball instead of them. And that was your goal as a server. So when I think about like this in the context of PvP, you can't really pinch someone out, or you can't really sub them, right? Like they are always going to be the weak link and everyone is always going to target them. So you're kind of there's just nothing you can do really if you're on the team where you have like a really big weak link and everyone's picking on them. You're just always going to be down one.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true. Yeah, very much like sports. I mean, we don't have men's volleyball as a maybe we do. I think we kind of do. It's small, but now I mean I wish we did, bro. I like volleyball a lot. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think it's because well, here football and volleyball actually play at the same time, so you have to choose football or volleyball. And I imagine that in the States, I don't know, football would probably just win in most places. Like all the athletes would just probably play football, but here
Now
it's
you
a
mean
good
like
mix.
soccer, right? Like football, soccer kind of, or like
No, like
NFL
American
style.
football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because here
Yeah.
we play American football, right? Well, kind of. We have Canadian rule. It's complicated. We have Canadian football.
Okay.
My understanding is that there are, I can't remember if there are fewer or more downs, and then there are more players on the field. I can't remember. Somebody in the chat will know.
Interesting. Okay. So it's very much similar, just some rules different. That's cool.
Yeah, we have like a full league that plays through the summer, Canadian Football
Yeah.
League. Then it plays into the fall, and then we have, I think it's called the Grey Cup or something. Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of so it's interesting, and this is a big aside, but it's kind of fun. In Canada, a lot of these kind of leagues and stuff, they'll have a lot of grants from the government for like sport and wellness and stuff,
Hmm.
but they have to spread, like I think as a part of some of this funding and stuff, they need to have a certain number of players be Canadian. So the league will be like 75-80% Canadian players. But then there'll be like a bunch of American players or other international players that are just like juiced, right? Like they'll just get like the best possible person they can internationally. So yeah, it's to help build Canadian talent, because otherwise, as you can imagine, everyone would just go and like get all players from elsewhere and then bring them into Canada, which they don't really want to do. They want to make sure that they're developing the sport in Canada. But this is also true. We have a basketball league in Canada that's kind of like, are you familiar with the G League, right? It's like
Yeah.
the step below the NBA. I would say that the skill level is about the G League, because a lot of the players will go and play in the G League. And there's a few players that were like drafted into the NBA and then like didn't quite make it after that. Anyway, we have that as well. It runs in the summer. It's called the CEBL, Canadian Elite Basketball League, and we have teams all across the country that play. But again, like 80% of them are Canadian players, and it's kind of cool. I don't know. It's just kind of what we do, I guess.
I
I mean,
mean,
hey, we have.
I
I mean,
think
I'm
that's
actually
yeah.
wearing the shirt today, the Shea Gilgis Alexander shirt, the Canadian MVP, Finals MVP, NBA champion, scoring title. He did it all this year.
Yeah, he definitely has the backpack. I mean, he's so good. Just watching him play, it just he's like kind of on both fronts. You know, if he plays well, it feels like everyone else is just going to play well around him, and you
Yeah,
know, it's like, but he always plays well, so it's it's very hard to beat that kind of team chemistry.
Yeah, what I
They're all
enjoyed
young.
most about him in particular was he was just a good person. Like he would stay after or before game. He would go before games or stay after, and he would sign like 500 autographs and stuff. He's just like a good person. It wasn't like super arrogant or anything. Was just nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, good character for sure is gonna be like. Yeah, it's always nice, right? You don't want like some like just shithead basically being the best at something and possibly being a bad influence at in every way, going to jail all the time or DUIs. You've seen that
Yeah,
like with a lot of superstars. So
yeah, they go kind of crazy. Speaking of the best players being a little bit crazy, uh, my good friend Silhouette actually. Are you familiar with Silhouette, the YouTuber? Maybe
maybe.
not. He makes some
Uh-huh.
YouTube videos. He's making a YouTube video, I think, about the PvP scene, and there may or may not be a reference to Kanye West.
I heard about that one.
Yeah, I heard that there's a lot of PvP players that are Kanye West fans. That's what I heard. I also heard that it totally dismantled a certain PvP tournament from happening.
Yeah. That's so sad. Like, I don't know. I don't experience that kind of community because I don't just PvP in Guild Wars 2. Like, it is the longest game I've PvP'd in, but I also PvP in Final Fantasy or even like anything that has a rank system. I'm willing to try it, and if I enjoy it, like my goal is always at least get to like the highest, you know, top 1% or get into the rank that is like the top rank, right? So for Fortnite, it's like Unreal, and this is no builds. I don't just for context, by the way, like it does matter, or like in Final Fantasy 14, which is the MMO. I relate to that because the top players in that game, I know a lot of them, and they're a lot different than the ones that we have on like just both NA and EU scene for the
Oh
most
yeah,
part.
how are they
Yeah,
different?
they don't have that like I don't know like they're they
They're
don't
not
have
wicked edgy.
yeah, there's a few. There's like a handful, obviously, but yeah, like the guy who's ranked number one in Final Fantasy, he actually is ranked one, has in both EU and NA on the leaderboards. The dude
Hmm.
will sit there and be part of the community. So there's like a tournament every Thursday, or not a tournament. There's like in houses every Thursday with like new players. So ranks from bronze all the way up to like crystal, and he's rank one, spending his time just playing with bronze players. Chatting with them, having a good time, and everyone's like super helpful. They'll share guides, like so. I'm like, there's none of that foolery where like the whole Kanye West thing, like you would see in Guild Wars 2, and it shocks me that community is kind of different than what we have for
What?
PvP.
Why do you think that is? Because I've always wondered. I think it has to do with moderation, right? I think they heavily
100%.
moderate Final Fantasy, and so as a consequence of that, people that are wicked edgy or like flame people out will eventually be filtered.
Yeah, that's literally it. I feel right. Uh, there's a certain PvPer who played Guardian. Uh, I mean, he doesn't really play as much now. He just logs on every once in a while. He was very
Digressed.
edgy. Yeah, very edgy. Would tell people all the time to do things that they shouldn't do to themselves. Be racially like he just slurs all day. I mean, he was proud to get suspended, but that was the thing. He only got suspended. Like maybe a couple counts got banned, but he could still log on every day. And I think even if they ban an account, they don't stop that individual because like 14 does Mac ban or IP ban. And Guild Wars rarely does that for some reason. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, well, maybe it's a lot of work, but for me, I think it's much more work having to constantly suspend everybody. I would just lay down the ban hammer. Like it would be like you get a one strike, you do something really stupid. Kind of depends what it is, right?
Yeah.
I would say for something like hacking the game, if you hack the game with the intent to like ruin the competitive nature of the game, It's probably like instant ban for me.
Oh, it should be. And this is like, I'm not gonna lie, like it is. I'm guilty of saying when I see that it makes me laugh and it's amusing. Not that I want it to happen,
Ah, the core
but
rifle warrior. Do you remember that?
it
The
I
flying
thought it
core
was so
rifle
funny.
warrior.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't say I wasn't laughing, right? But I was
It
also
was
sad at the
funny.
same time because I just look at this and say, okay, they'll ban this. It was like a free account, I think, too, so it really didn't matter. But I know they could, well, maybe not VPN, but still, they should be able to like instantly ban that person, like on the spot, right? Not wait. If they see something or get a report, like it should be instant.
You'd think. Yeah. You'd
Yeah.
think that if there was a flying UFO warrior with a rifle just sniping everybody out of the skies, winning all of the games in their monthly, that they would be instantly banned. But no.
Yeah. And so moderation is, I feel, 90% of why like people push the boundaries of what they cannot say. It's like, when there's a law enforcement presence, like, yeah, people are still going to have like their inherent thoughts, and I don't think we can change that, but they're going to definitely second guess doing something when they know that there's a consequence, like an immediate consequence, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what needs to happen because, like, yeah, you really can't, especially if you don't know the person or even know what they, not that it matters, but you don't know them behind the screen. You can't really change somebody you don't know's perspective on anything. Like, it wouldn't matter to me if they're Kanye fans or not, but the fact that they can blatantly just be all, in the game doing whatever they want is, I feel like, where it draws the line. Like,
I
do what you
just
want
find
in
it
your own
so
home.
amusing to call people Kanye fans now. It's like an
Yeah,
insult.
I stole that from you. I guess I stole. Yeah, no, like I'm using it as like, for consistency with you, I guess,
Yeah.
because this is the first
It's
I've heard
so
of calling anyone
good.
a,
It's so
yeah.
funny. Oh man. Yeah, Kanye did kind of go over the edge, unfortunately.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like whatever drove him, it's unfortunate. As a human, I have sympathy, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna condone, or like, not, I'm not gonna support him at the same time, if that makes sense. You
Yeah.
know, like, but that's how I feel about, for me, for the PvP scene. At least I try to be helpful as much as I can nowadays, and I isolate myself from a lot of, the core group. And like, I'll still interact with the core players, like the old school dedicated PvPers, but anybody new that comes in, it's kind of like I also try to keep those ones away so they can at least enjoy, the game a little bit. Like, that's what I want to see, and not get, into the whole social aspect of PvP, of who's good, who's not, blah blah blah, clout chase. Basically, be a stranger of the scene in a way.
Yeah. When I play PvP, I just know that I'm bad and I just like accept my fate, you know? I I will admit though. Okay, one of the hardest parts about PvP for me is I used to be better. And so when I'm playing PvP now, I just like know that it's bad. I just know, right? But there's nothing I can do to change it in that instant. I just know that I'm playing bad. But I think the thing that's even worse is when you're playing and you know that your team is playing bad, but you also feel helpless to like carry them. You know, like you can't you can't really do anything.
Yeah, I don't think, and it's I feel like ranked is not a good, like, representation of how good you really are, because of everything you mentioned earlier about you're playing, ranked roulette, uh, and in a game where there's, you like, it relies on the coordination of five people going in as just a solo. Like, statistically, you really have no influence on the other players, so it's like kind of just like gambling at a casino. The house is always going to win, really. And I wouldn't feel bad either, because when you think about when you play, I'd assume you get on the class you like, right? You don't care about what the queue times are. You're just going to queue, you know. And so that's a whole different like strategy, right? It's more like, obviously I just want to play the game, versus someone that's rank farming and they're saying, okay, I'm going to deliberately have an alt account that maybe has a lower rating that I'm queuing with. One of my friends has a lower rated account. We're going to queue as certain classes. We're going to abuse what's like the guild. I think it's like the guild PvP team system. Uh, at certain hours, queue dodge these players, right? Whole different, strategy compared to what you may be doing. And so when you're getting involved with that, it's always going to be a losing outcome for the most part, right? Because it's like if
I
you ran the
hate the
same
queue
strategy, yeah,
dodging thing. It's crazy to me
yeah.
that that's even a thing in the game.
It, I don't know how true it was, but apparently somebody, if this is true, it's wild that how someone went so far as to create like a bot that would use the API apparently to track who's queuing at certain times on NA. So they would just see, okay, if these people aren't queuing, like if none of the good players are queuing, that's when they would queue.
Yeah, just wake up at 4 a.m. and start queuing.
Yeah, there's that. So yeah, I wouldn't feel bad. I mean, at the same time, right? Back when you played, maybe, or like really when you really played, the scene had people queuing at all times, all the time. So you're getting in games where everyone is equally as rated, and then you would climb. That's traditionally how it used to be.
Yeah,
And
I
then
never.
plus when mhm.
The game was just more populated back then, right? When the game was really populated, you couldn't really queue dodge because there was always going to be somebody that was pretty good.
Yeah. And then like I said, if someone's using an account that maybe is like silver or gold, like low gold or like low silver or whatnot, and you get into that game, but the player is somebody who's like maybe, you know, just somebody who lives in PvP. If you're against them and you lose, like that will sink your rating so hard because of that one player's rating itself.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's a really weird system now. Do you think that push will have any impact? Like, do you like? Actually, I should start with this. Do you like push?
not in Guild Wars. uh
Is there somewhere
Final
else where
Fantasy
push is
has,
done?
yeah. So Final Fantasy 14, I think, is where they really got it from. But don't quote me on that, because they have their mode is, the name is Crystal Conflict or Crystalline Conflict, and it is push. You're pushing a crystal to the opposite, basically to the base of your opponent. And so that was about like 4 or 5 years ago. This system, that I enjoy it because, in my opinion, the OCD, like the global cooldown, or the GCDs, like the global cooldown timers, make it enjoyable. But in Guild Wars, because the game is so fast paced, I really think Conquest is the only mode that works. And I don't hate Conquest. I actually still enjoy. I like Conquest as a game mode. I don't think it should change, or we need a new game mode. I just feel like maybe we should just get some balance. Some new maps would be nice, right? We haven't had a new map in a while, but maps that are actually, good design, not Jin's Domain or Spirit Watch.
Yeah.
Like horrible designs on those ones. I don't really like 3D maps in a way. Um, you know, I like 2D maps. So, well, somewhat, right? The original maps, Legacy, Kylo, Forest, really, really good, I feel. But then Skyhammer gets a little weird. I think Coliseum's good. But yeah, Skyhammer also is just like, it's a weird one for me because there's a lot of areas where like no ports, right? You can really get exploited by a no port spot, and it just, it takes away your ability to win, and it isn't anything like skill level. It's just the design of the map that just ends up getting you killed,
Yeah.
right?
And if you
Some
don't
people
know
still
that
can't
those
even jump on,
spots, you're
yeah,
really screwed.
and some people can't even jump on platforms still. Like they'll try, to this day I've seen a lot of players try to jump on the platform and it just bugs. They don't get shot up, so then they end up dying. as well. So
Yeah,
a
and they
lot of
die on the
bugs in that.
platform, and then their buddy comes to try to res them, but the thing works for them, and they get jumped up, and their friend dies, and they die.
Yeah, that's the worst part. But yeah, as I said, in ranked, the two things I find success with: killing their worst player a lot, or trying to, and not dying. Because when especially like that's all I can control is my own deaths. If I stay alive on the map, I find value as much as I can. Because sometimes I could be holding two people, right? I don't have the node, but they're just trying to kill me the whole game, and I feel like that's so valuable. I may not even get any top stats, and people like are always like, "Oh, well, I got top healing." It's like, well, you realize you got that because I was just sitting there just tanking two people all game long,
Yeah.
and it allowed you to freely go out and just overwhelm the opponent, the opposition. And so that's how I see it. I hate it. I really hate that it has to come down to that. Um,
Yeah,
but that's
statistics
kind
are
of the
very
nature.
contextual.
Yeah. It's like you just have to adapt if you really want to like enjoy the ranked games themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that it's fast paced. I'm curious. I've tried to think about what I would do if I was in the developer's shoes with regards to creating a new PvP game mode. And for me, it's just like Conquest is too complicated for the average Guild Wars 2 player at this point in the game's life. They've catered very hard to casual players, and I'm not saying that's bad. I know people in the comments are like getting ready to hate me for this. It's just interesting. They've catered very hard to making the game extremely accessible. Very casual players play the game now. People are playing on controllers. They're doing all these things that make it so that it's just very accessible, very casual. But that doesn't translate very well into PvP because PvP is so fast, and so people just get annihilated by skilled players very quickly. When they created push, I was like, well, I mean, at least that simplifies things a little bit. You know that you're supposed to go to just this one place. But it turns out that people just go sit on the little cart and die instantly because of the debuff thing over time. Like that's like I don't feel like it's really solved that much. When I didn't even know, like it wasn't abundantly clear to me that being on the node thing would give you that debuff. I figured that out after like a game or two. Then I went, "Oh, okay. I can farm people." So I just put on like a ranged class and I would sit off of the node and I would just farm the enemy team and let my players feed into the circle. But I don't feel like that should be the way that it's played. I also quite dislike how push. It feels like the tempo is a bit weird. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it should be more punishing when you die. But maybe I just had a weird experience. I only played 15 games, but when I died, I was just like respawn, go to circle, and the circle would most of the time not move very much, right?
Yeah, that's one thing that I feel like if in both Conquest and like any PvP game mode, I push for like an increasing spawn timer, right? One death, first death, okay, or it's like 15 seconds. Second death, 20 seconds. Third death, 25 seconds. And in my opinion, I feel like it's like conditioning in a way, right? Like negative and positive reinforcement. When someone sees that they're going to die and then constantly like their death timer is going to go up, I feel like players inherently are going to adapt and say like, hey, maybe I should die less, right? And right now, if it's like a flat timer across the board, then I think it most of the time people don't see the value of dying. And I think they can, what I call it is like storming Normandy, really. Like you just go in, you charge head, no danger, you just disregard everything, you put everything down, and then you just die, rinse and repeat. Uh, but I try to tell, and trust me, I try to tell a lot of people, like, I don't care what stats you get. I care, show me your deaths, right? If you have one or two deaths the whole game, like that feels for me more valuable than maybe you got like 10 kills.
Yeah.
But I've played so long. I feel like that's probably like the way I look at the game now. Right, push. I say fast paced because the games last so they're so quick. Really, it's just like a farming simulator, and it's whoever can farm the other team better. Um, it was the same thing with the Stronghold, like the MOBA version, and maybe like mechanically, what they probably have to do is do like an in-game leveling system for PvP, like what League would have in a MOBA style game, or push, slow everything down manually, or like death timers. But to be honest, I would much rather see like 1v1 queues, just have people do queues for dual queues basically. I would see how it worked, because I feel like that would actually teach players how to use their class a little bit better. Um TDMs I feel like is probably better than anything that they're trying, because I agree Conquest is very complicated for a new player. You have to learn your build, your class, the other people's classes, and how to rotate. And prioritizing rotations, even to this day, like a lot of the people I play with are still like figuring out where I should be at what time on what role. Should support be in the team fight? Should the support be supporting their, where the enemy DPS is, like what matchups or what? It gets very complicated. And I think a lot of that can be solved by, you know, dual queues, 2v2, 3v3s, in my opinion.
I have an extremely hot take. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, yeah.
Stronghold is better than push.
Okay, that's not that. I thought it was extreme. What you kind of
I think it's a
disappointed
pretty
me.
extreme take. I think a lot of people don't like Stronghold for whatever reason, but I every time I play Stronghold, which is not very often anymore, I think that Stronghold is actually more fun than push.
I feel like you
And I
asked,
think
yeah. Mhm.
Stronghold is very obvious how it works because of MOBAs. And so I don't think there's like a huge learning curve. It's pretty clear where you need to be relative to Conquest. Conquest is very rotationally complex, and I don't think Stronghold is as rotationally complex. I think it's harder to
Yeah.
make a mistake in Stronghold, is I guess what I mean.
Oh, 100%. I think no. You could ask many seasoned PvPers. Like I would say they agree that Stronghold is way better than Push. Um, that's definitely. I'm a little disappointed. That's not a hot take at all.
Really, I thought it was
Uh,
a hot take because I've heard a lot of people say they dislike Stronghold. So
Well, in a vacuum, yeah, like Stronghold's not good, but if you're comparing like Stronghold to Push, I think a lot of people would say Stronghold is infinitely better than Push. Uh, which kind of like also irritates me, right? They have already another game mode. What do? They want to create a third one, but realizing the second game mode they created has literally no players. Uh, there's nothing there for it really. And I'm not saying like there's no players, like it's hyperbolic. It definitely doesn't have the same level of involvement as Conquest or participation.
I have another. Okay, well this isn't a hot take. This is a very cold take actually. All they'd have to do to rejuvenate Stronghold would be to make it ranked. That's
I think
it.
you're that could be something.
Make it the monthly, or
Rejuvenator,
like
yeah.
make it an extra tournament in the monthly, and then also make it ranked every other season or something. Boom, Stronghold completely revived. And then just like tune it, right? Tune it, make a new map. You can develop it further from there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like at
people
the
will
highest
play.
level, you'd actually get really interesting matches
Yeah.
for Stronghold.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
uh, what I but I think overall, like as a game mode, what I think would make the game mode healthier is having that same kind of in-game leveling system like a league does. Slow it down. Like there's no reason a MOBA game mode should be 3 minutes from beginning to end, because the strategy now is, hey, let's just all get the door bombers, farm their players, get the supplies, kill the lord. We're done.
Oh, I see what you mean now. I was a little bit confused. I didn't know what you meant by leveling system at the beginning, but you mean like how the champions level and get stronger over time, and this allows you to, yeah, I'm gonna use the word
I,
push. It allows you to push forward past more towers, right? Yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't know if you could make it quite as complex as a MOBA, just because of how the system works and whatever, maybe the engine, but But yeah, I think you could. I think the way that you'd have to do that would have to do with like the door breakers and stuff. Like the door breakers
Uh,
just could not get past the second thing unless you did something specific. I don't know. There needs to be a way for you for like really skilled players to win the game faster. But I think you're right. If the game ends in like 2 minutes because the other team is just so much better, it would feel a bit weird.
well, yeah, and more. I want a leveling system where I start at level 1 and I have to unlock my skills. If I'm a
Oh,
rev, I only get one sword in the beginning. Then I have to buy my second weapon in the game, right? I could either buy a staff or I could buy a hammer, whatever.
ooh, that would be
Basically,
very
just like,
complex. Well, I mean, MOBAs are that's just how MOBAs work. But yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean though. If we're doing a MOBA game mode, I would like MOBA mechanics, but it because you could see right now without it it failed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I keep thinking about all the times that I've played Stronghold. I've always enjoyed myself when I've played Stronghold. Always. And when I lose, I feel like it's my fault in that game mode. When I lose in Conquest, I blame everyone else. I don't know what it is. But I find Conquest to be way more frustrating than Stronghold.
I feel like well, because Stronghold is more or less just team deathmatch with MOBA. You
Yeah.
know, you're just fighting people everywhere. Really, the door breakers are doing your job for you, and then you just kill the Lord at the end. But yeah, I think that's why it feels frustrating because you could be rotating well and like I've experienced this. I look at the map. Why I'll lose is I have 3 players chasing one dude randomly, you know, and forget everything else. Like, just look at the map, see, hey, maybe I just need one of them to say, hey, maybe I don't need to be here. Maybe 2 of us can kill this guy, right? And so then, because when they do that, then they're like, they leave everyone else kind of out in the open, or we lose a node. My favorite is when the one who's always in downstate is just like saying everyone else is in downstate. Like, why are you guys always dying? Where are you guys? Where's my team? Uh, I had a fun experience actually the other day. I'm sure you know like the whole influx of like the larger streamer groups coming into Guild Wars 2, right? And they like created a guild
No,
that
I have no
I
idea what you're
joined.
talking about. In Guild Wars 2?
Yeah. So there's like a group of players. One of them, his name's Cannon, right? Uh, and he created a guild in this well in Guild Wars. A bunch of people are either new or returning players, and they wanted to do a PvP guild mission. So like a week ago, I joined them just because I was curious to see how it would play out. And the worst thing I heard that entire game was, "Guys, let's fight on point. Come on, everybody on point."
Uh,
Just
yeah.
it killed me a little, because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is kind of the worst advice you can give anyone.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, but it's not abundantly clear. Like in their defense, I would think that that's actually a reasonable strategy. You know, it's like, oh well, we need to kill the people on the point and then take the point. But there, obviously, it's a lot more complex than that. But yeah, that's I think people just default to that. It seems like a safe option.
Yeah, or maybe they get confused and think the more people on a point, then the faster it caps. Like, like it doubles the speed of a cap if there's 4 people versus 2, which it doesn't. But maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know. I'd have to ask them.
How do you think that would change things? Okay, so let's say, for example, that um, it would be more like some of the PVE mechanics. So Conquest changes so that if you have one person, it caps very slowly. If you have 2 people, it caps faster. If you have 3 people, and it obviously maxes out at all 5. But then that is balanced with the number of enemy players also on the point. So if you have 3 people on the point and the enemy has 2, you're still capping very slowly. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that would be. It just sounds interesting. I would love to try it. To be honest, I don't really know how it would really affect the game. I just know it would make it a lot more strategic. You know,
Yeah, it's actually isn't push like that? I think it's one of my issues with push, where like if one person from the opposing team is in there and you have like three people, they just completely stall it. I think that push should literally be like a tug of war. Like if I have five people pushing that thing and you have one, we are going to win, right?
yeah. I mean, to
Is it like
counter to
that or
that
not?
though,
I feel like it wasn't when I played, but
no, it's one person can basically stop a cap. Um, in other games where that's a thing, because that's true across like all push games. Like one player can really stall it, but the counter argument to that is, well, that person will die so fast if there's five people attacking them. In Guild Wars, that's not really the case because I believe there's so many ways that you can make your character just as tanky as possible, right? Maybe if there's two mesmers now, like it won't work. Like one person on the node will just die. But
yeah. Chatter here has a really interesting take. I'm surprised it still is in a CTF mode, capture the flag, easy to follow with less rotation required from new players. You'd be correct. And in Guild Wars 1, that was GVG. So it was like 8v8, capture the flag, essentially. And there were like different places on the map that you needed to capture and stuff. And it was quite robust and in fact very loved. Like it had a very, very big community. It still does. Guild Wars 1 is a big PvP community. However, in Guild Wars 2, it doesn't work because the game is so fast and people can be so slippery, right? Like imagine, I suppose there's ways they could try to mitigate this, but imagine like a thief. If you have the flag, I guess you'd have to make it so that you can't stealth. If you have the flag, you'd have to make it so that you can't
Shadow
teleport
Portal,
yeah.
yeah,
You'd have to make it so you can't take a portal because if I'm on the other team or if I'm on the team with the flag, I just go, okay, we're gonna play a bunch of thieves and mesmers. We're just gonna blink teleport portal everywhere, right? And we'd be fine, right? Yeah, it would have to be like Orb on Spirit Watch. I suppose they kind of have the capture the flag thing in the Winter's Day event, right? The Snowball Mayhem, right? You have to take the thing back to your side, and it kind of
yeah.
works there. But
They should
again,
do
but
rank
that's with
for those.
yeah, they should. They should have ranked for those. That would be sick. They used to, yeah, in Guild Wars 1, they would have like titles and stuff for winning, so people would get very competitive in those events, but Guild Wars 2, not so much.
That would be so sick. I think it would be refreshing to have like ranked Dragon Ball or ranked the Winners Day one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would bring my 5-man queue in there.
100%. I'm now very interested in the idea of having capture the flag. Would capture the flag be better than push? Chat. So for the
Yes.
live chat here, put a 1 in the chat if yes.
Even your dog agrees.
He found the rabbit.
Oh, yeah. He's like, yes, it's better than push. I think anything's better than push. The way push is designed for Guild Wars 2 is not, it's not optimal. Yeah, it's
He's still woofing a lot right now. He's very upset about the rabbit. This happened yesterday too when I was doing the podcast. Eventually, he sees something outside that really bothers him, and he just goes ballistic for like a little bit, and then he comes back into reality. But yeah, there's also the
gets
neighbor
bored.
has a cat that free roams, and the cat will walk into our yard sometimes, and the dog takes exception to that. He hates that. It really bothers him that the cat is walking in our front lawn.
He's like,
Yeah.
get off my lawn.
Yeah, I'd 100% like. I actually am interested now. Would capture the flag work? I think there'd have to be a lot of things that they'd have to mess with to make it so that it wasn't just super cheesy. But it could work, right? What I think would end up happening. Well, I think it's kind of like push is kind of like capture the flag, right? I think that's kind of what they were going for. But I think the difference with capture the flag is that someone on your team is like holding something and changing the way that they engage with stuff. It's a little bit different than pushing the cart thing. I don't know. I'm not sure. Would it work? I think the reason why it hasn't really been implemented is because of all the things that they'd have to like disable or mess with. But
I
I would
wish
love a GVG type thing.
I would not be against it. If at first though they got to fix the modes they already have, in my opinion. Not in a balance. Like obviously, balance is going to be completely, it's like always ongoing. They always have to balance X, Y, Z. But I feel that fix stronghold, you can go ahead and go to the next one. It seems like they put something out. There's no real like, all right, let's actually see what the performance is like, what the reviews are like whether this is healthy for it. Update it, change it. They'll create something. I feel like the beta is more just to see like, hey, is this gonna break the game or not? All right, it's not gonna break the game. Let's just ship it.
Yeah.
And then once they ship it, it's like, all right, on to the next thing. We're gonna forget about you.
I was kind of surprised that they decided to do a new PvP mode at all. Honestly, I feel like it was a lot of dev time. I was just really surprised. I thought if they were gonna do anything, they would just basically make TDM like permanent, right? Like the 3v3 or 2v2 or something. But
Yeah.
no.
I would love that, to be honest. Like I would 100% love unranked queues like that, because there's some days, for downtime too, if I want to just like work on something or like play a class specifically. Like why are they going to have tournaments around it? Like let's say, the special occasion tournaments, the 2v2 tournaments and everything, but not allow us to like be able to access maybe a queue in game where we can test builds. The only way to do it is maybe get like 4 people and do an in-house. People will do that, but I feel like there just has to be less barrier to entry, in my opinion. It gets stale fighting the same people over and over again.
Yeah, I would agree. So I gave obviously my hot take that wasn't really that hot of a take. What's your hot take about push or PvP in general?
I think my hot take on PvP in general is PvP is actually not that imbalanced. I
Really? Well,
think,
what about the
yeah.
scourges?
Well, that's where I'm saying like it's one, really it's like one class at the moment, right?
Yeah.
That makes it's weird for me because I mean I'm coming from someone who's played, you know, say 7,000 games, and for me it's been like across my alts and everything and tournaments, it's like 25,000 games. um and even like at some pretty high levels in a way, you could say, right? Like second place in monthlies, right? Typically, I would say I'm COC farming right now, like for the champion of champions, because getting best of the best is, I mean, long shot. But coming from this, like PvP to me, it doesn't seem as broken as a lot of people make it out to be. Like there are unhealthy mechanics to it, but I think it is manageable. And why I where I feel like it's not being managed is because you have devs working on 6 different things, building out new stuff all the time, that it feels like they just can't keep up with making the adjustments to what is already in the system. You know, there's no consistency to me. And my example is like Ranger, that Ranger you're talking about, like where they can't remove Ranger from pet. That's the pet identity, right? Like for galeshot, oh, you can't remove it. And then it kind of hurt me, not what you said, but like seeing that hurts me as a warrior player, because I'm like, a warrior's identity when the game started was you're a master of all weapons. So you always have like that's where the 5-second weapon swap came in. And then Bladesworn deleted the warrior identity completely, because now you have one weapon and your gunblade. Where in my opinion, that should be your third weapon. You shouldn't be subjected to one weapon set. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm like, well, they have removed identity before, but now it's like, oh well, they can't remove identity now. And I just don't know why everything always has to be like, there's no foundation where it's like, this is absolute. We're not going to change the class identities. Everything that we do is built around what we originally designed these core classes to be. Um, and now it's like, hey, why don't we just change it? Let's make this different, which is game breaking to me, but also deletes Warrior from, as an example, from ever really playing Bladesworn.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
I'm actually going to be doing a series with Bladesworn.
good
Uh,
luck.
yeah, it's Well, it's warrior in general. So I've done all the prep for this now. Now I need to execute. I am gonna try to beat the core game of Guild Wars 2 using a warrior with no gear and no weapons.
Ooh, yeah, huh? Blade. Oh, well, Blade Sworn. Yeah, I guess because you have
But
the
I
gun
have to
saber.
level to 80 first to get Blade Sworn.
So remind me, when you have no weapons, you punch and kick, right?
No, you have nothing. You can't do anything. You just must accept defeat.
Can you use utilities?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I've tried it before. It's really freaking hard on warrior. The I tried it before Blade Sworn was a thing, and it was okay. So this is what I did before. I used kick, stomp, and bull's charge, and then I was trying to unlock the rampage elite. But as you can imagine, you do so little damage with those skills that it's just a fiesta, right? Like, yeah, beating the story was exceptionally difficult just because I had to essentially kite things forever and just lay out my skills and wait till they recharged.
That's funny. See, I feel like that would be man. Now I'm thinking about that'd actually be really easy on Revenant, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I never tried it on Revenant, but on Revenant, what you do is use Chalice.
Yeah, like it just seems Chalice and Malix would make it really easy.
The easiest one is Necro because what you
Wh-
do is you use all minions and then you go into Shroud and then you get your weapon skills from Shroud. And Shroud gives you another HP bar so you can tank everything.
Yeah, this is why that class design is annoying. And now people are like, when anyone asks me, and maybe I'm maybe I'm enabling this. There's a lot of people who ask like when I'm like PvPing or streaming, they'll say, "Hey, I just got into the game. Like, what's a good class to start out?" I always refer Necro.
I always tell people to play whatever they think looks cool. But apparently people are like,
Yeah,
I don't care what's the strongest thing.
yeah. I always tell them Necro, and because I guess it's hard not to be honest. It's true, right? Like it is
Yeah.
the easiest class to pick up because of what you said. You basically get 2 health bars. You don't feel as punished when you make mistakes because there's a lot of like tankiness you have. Like you already have a really high HP pool. If I'm not mistaken, it's the highest of all the light classes. And then a lot of damage is basically either radius based or AoE based. And like AoE meaning dropping a mark, or radius being like you press a button and you just stuff shoots out of you in like 240 radius. So yeah, it's where it's like it's just so easy to just pick up, press buttons, and be impactful. I hate it, to be honest. I wish
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
wish it was
bad.
gone, but
Yeah, no, I'm pretty. Yeah, this I. One thing I think is really interesting in the content creation scene in Guild Wars 2 is I feel like there aren't a lot of like story driven, narrative focused content creators. I think a lot of people just do like, and by the way, I'm not disparaging this at all. I think it's important to have this. I think a lot of content creators are more so commentary or information based, like guides, or they'll say, like, hey, this is what the new patch says. This is my take on it. But there's not a lot of people that are like, I don't know how familiar you are with like old school RuneScape and stuff, but there's a lot of people that do like narrative focused content there, right? Where they're focusing on like a story, like Swampletics with Settled, right? Or Tile Man mode Settled did that. There's a bunch of people that are doing like the Karamja only Iron Man. There's somebody doing that. Somebody that's doing a wilderness thing. So there's these like challenges that focus on doing something unique and telling the story of how they do that. But in Guild Wars 2, we don't do that. And I wonder why. I've been left to wonder why quite a bit. And my assessment is that for content creators in Guild Wars 2, there's quite a well, first of all, it's sort of a cultural thing. Like maybe people are just constantly looking for information and that's just how the game has worked. But I also think that there's incentive mostly for players to for arena partners and stuff to just get like new players all the time, so people don't necessarily focus on retention of players. And yeah, so I just had this realization the other day, and it made me want to create this series. So I'm working on trying to like learn how to do that. So I've been doing a lot of essentially studying these other creators, how they set up these stories. I'm also very inspired by like Wolfie Glick. I probably mentioned this before, maybe even my last podcast, but I'm really inspired by Wolfie Glick, who does Pokemon, like competitive Pokemon battle stuff, and he like over explains everything. I think that's really cool. So my hope is that I could emulate something like that, but for Guild Wars 2. And I think the way to do that is through like some absurd challenge. So I'm gonna do it.
I play RuneScape myself. You know, it's the best game for work, right? Like AFK, kind of just like doing. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but basically, yeah, it makes work easier when I have it in the background.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of people will do like challenges, like you said. Most recent was one of them was like, I'm only going to get to 99 attack by grinding in the wilderness, right? And that was like, okay, it kept me engaged because if you play, you know, like the wilderness basically is where people go to like player kill you and take your gear. That
Yeah.
was very fun to watch, you know, to see if he succeeded. Uh, and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the storytelling in other games, I think definitely. But the OGs, right, the old content creators, definitely, I agree with you. It's very much if I turn on a stream nowadays of a Guild Wars 2 player, it's always like talking high level about Guild Wars 2, more or less about for what like someone who's played the game for a long period of time will resonate with, but never really for somebody who wants to learn the game or get into it. So maybe that does deter a lot of players from like newer players when they go in, they're like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. You know, it's all min max, like this set, this, that, theoretics about like marketing Guild Wars and the whole like as I
Yeah.
mentioned, the guy Cannon, right, earlier,
Yeah.
his they have a really good way of like they're doing blind dungeons level 30 blind, right? You know, 1,000 people are watching him just fail over and over again, and he made some YouTube videos. So I think maybe like when some of those people are playing, like see what they're doing and maybe take ideas, because I think there is, I feel like, a drought, and if you do it, there is, in my opinion, people are hungry for what you're looking to do,
Yeah. So
you
here's
know.
kind of the way that I'm thinking about setting it up. What I want to do is essentially like an over explain so that it's appealing to both a veteran player and to a newer player, right? So an example is like, okay, I'm going to do Guild Wars 2's Ultimate Challenge. Beat the core game without using any weapons or armor on a warrior. And then what I'm forced to do is sort of explain the challenge, right? I'm like, the reason why that this is a big challenge is because warriors known as a profession for being sort of the master of arms. Then walk through some of the traits and explain how weapon swapping is important, right? And say, hey, like without weapon skills, you actually have very few options for dealing damage. And so I'll be using and then explain like a few of like the core utility skills that I'll be working toward. So I'm forced to over explain that profession. And I think that that's pretty cool, right? Like I'll over explain that. And then I'm going to be forced to over explain like how I make my account stronger without armor and weapons. And so a few of those ways are like there are specific items throughout the game that are like summons that you can only use every 30 minutes and the summon lasts 5 minutes. Or there are certain hearts that give you a bundle that gives you weapons. Like there's one that gives you grenades, and so that's going to be an easy way to farm that map and get materials and stuff. And so I think being able to like over explain these like really intricate systems will help quite a lot.
Actually, that's, yeah, no, I think you're right. What you're saying is will have, I feel, you'll get good engagement. Obviously, if like, you know, with the algorithm working on your favor and everything and marketing it and like promoting it and hyping it, yeah, that sounds like it's a good idea in my opinion. I mean, I learned that you get the grenades and stuff too, and I've played. I mean, it's not fair to say, but I don't PVE, but I think I'd watch it. It's basically at the end of the day, like long story short, I'd watch it. And I
Yeah,
don't
I
watch
think it'll
many
be
Guild
fun.
Wars 2 creators, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't either, and that's what actually sparked all of this for me. Is I realized there's a ton of creators But again, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but like, I don't find anyone to be doing anything like super interesting. I feel like everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And the same
Yeah.
thing being like, hey, did you know you can make 50 gold an hour doing this? Hey, did you know that there's this new thing coming out on Tuesday that you should try? Hey, this is the new thing that dropped in the gem store. It's just very informational and reportive a lot of the time. And I just think it's so devoid of personality and story. We need a story, a narrative, like something to get behind, something to root for. Like when I'm watching Settled, like his most recent video I watched, where he's like, I'm going to try to beat the world record for the fastest fire cape. And I'm like, how is he going to do that? Right? Like you ask yourself questions, and he over explains like the history of the record and like why it's difficult, how he's changing it, what the RNG is like. He really makes it an event, and then you're rooting for him. I'd rather have, I'd rather people want to like root for me to succeed or something, you know? And
Yeah.
eh, yeah, I just think the story matters more than just reporting stuff all the time. I think reporting stuff all the time just makes the game feel very transactional and just like a do this, do this. It's just a chore list. Like, let's make the game fun again by doing challenges and things.
Yeah, and for like chat, I think to clarify, Sneb, I don't think you're saying the in-game story as much as you are saying creating your own narrative about like how you're going to play the game. Because I feel like some people are like,
Yes.
well, the story XYZ. It's like, no, we're not. The in-game story is completely different. We're not focusing on that. You're focusing on making your own story of, yeah, like, hey, I just did this on my warrior. Like getting like a raw, right? A
Yeah,
raw,
there's plenty of people that
whatever,
do
how you
let's
want to say it.
plays and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. I didn't clarify this. There's plenty of people that do let's plays where they walk through the story and listen to the story and that kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is creating my own story by putting a self-imposed challenge and then having to explain that challenge and execute on it, which is different. Yeah.
Because um, there's the funny, so there's Overwatch could be to kind of like make your point for you as well, like to help it. Overwatch doesn't seem like a game that's more than just like, it's like devoid of much storytelling, right? It's PvP focused. There's a creator named J3 who is really good at creating stories from his ranked games or anything where it's kind of like in a way drama farming, like, hey, this guy said I was asked, so we 1v1, right? And then he tells a story about how he met this guy basically, or what game it was in, just laying the foundation, then hitting like the climax of like, all right, we 1v1, this is what happened, and then maybe they became friends afterwards. I know Nudie kind of did that. A lot of people didn't like it, but I felt like, maybe it was the way it was done with Nudica, but I think his model was kind of similar of storytelling. Like, hey, this guy on the free for all pitch talked shit. We dueled. I beat him. Right. That kind of
Yeah.
is what I feel made him notorious and blew him up. In
Yeah.
your case, you're kind of doing it more in a more positive way. As much as I like Nudie, he's like, he's my boy. I'm not gonna diss him or anything, but I feel like the content he created similar, but more of a like, okay, positive interaction and, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not really like, I'm just storytelling, right? There's nobody else involved but me, really. Maybe another
Yeah.
creator who wants to collab.
Yeah, I've thought about lots of ways to make this kind of interesting, but I'm gonna try it. The challenge for me now is like I don't have a lot of editing skills, so I have to kind of figure that out. But I'd want to have like a little intro. My vision is to have each episode be like 10 to 15 minutes, and then it just, and each episode is kind of focused on like a barrier or something that I have to overcome. Like the first episode is mostly going to be like explaining the challenge and then explaining the big barrier being I don't deal like any damage. Like how do I gain my first pieces of experience? And then what that would necessitates is that I explain how you gain experience in Guild Wars 2. So the beautiful part about this is that I'm going to be teaching people things about the game without having it be like a boring lecture. They're going to naturally gain information by engaging with the challenge. And I think
You
that's
were a
what makes
teacher.
this good. Yeah.
And yeah, I no remember that. I think it's funny because I feel like your teaching experience is coming out.
Yes, this is the goal. It's experiential learning. That's what I'm trying to engage with, right? Like I am showing people that I'm experiencing this thing, and as a consequence of that, I am learning these things about the game. and then they are gaining that knowledge secondhand by watching the video. So I think that that will be more engaging than just generally lecturing to people.
Yeah, it's I'm I think that would be really cool, bringing in new players, and because I believe in something similar to like teaching in steps as well. It's like, because when I've seen an influx of people coming in that from other games that have popular followings on Twitch and they'll play Guild Wars 2, the one thing I kind of get irritated with, not that I have any control over it, but just for the health of everything, like the game is, there's so much, like people try to just dump so much knowledge so quick, right? The guy, like someone will just create their character and we're already teaching them like how to min max or how to like about face, or even in PvP, it's like, oh, you want to learn how to store your weapons. I'm like, can the guy read his skills first? Like, can he know
Yeah.
what his cooldown times are, or like, what endurance is, dodge rolls, you know, that to me is going to help more than teaching someone from day one, like weapon stow, like learn how to like about face dodge, so that way you're, instead of dodging backwards, you're technically dodging forward and all of that. Because that's what happens a lot of the time when I see people coming into the game, is everyone just starts saying like the end game shit, like, oh, 32 slot bags from day one, and it's like the dude just has like 5 pieces of gear. Can we get him like a
Sir, this
10
is a
slot bag
Wendy's.
maybe? Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think Sun Matrix just said it very well. People are a little bit too helpful, right? Like they're, and I fall into this trap a lot. But it's so challenging, right? Because sometimes people come in and they're like, "What class should I play?" And I could like, go full like spreadsheet, explain the pros and cons to every class and whatever. Or this is what I usually do: just say you should play whatever you think sounds fun, and then if you don't like it, you can always make a new character. The game's really alt friendly. But people are like really unsatisfied with that answer. So there's sort of this tender balance. It's like you need to share enough information so that people feel satisfied, but not so much that they get overwhelmed.
yeah, my professional experiences, I think this is where this comes in for that question specifically, is because the one thing I'll always do the first time, if I get a question that doesn't have enough answer, it's like natural response. If someone says, "Hey, I just knew, what should I play?" and I say, "Well, where did you come from?" Like, okay, that sounds bad. What game did you come from? Or like, what game did you play previously, or what were you playing in your previous games? And if they say that, and I say, "Well, would you like to play something similar, or like, what are you looking for in a class, like identity?" Once they give me that, I'd say, okay, based on basically what you're saying, like you'd want to play this, um, you know. And then if they ask me if it's good, yeah, I'll be honest. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I want to play warrior. Is it good in PvP?" And I'll be like, "It's not, but that doesn't mean you can't play it. You know,
Yeah.
you just have to learn how to be good at the class overall, and you can kind of carry your way. You know, and you can't play competitively, but I just, the first thing I like to do is know where they came from, as far as like if they came from another MMO, or what they like to play as a class before I recommend. But if someone's like, "Well, I'll play anything," that's when I'm like, "Oh, just play Necro." you know,
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
get good at
exactly.
it. Because some friends are like, "Well, play healer," and they're like, "Oh, I play guardian because I want to play healer." And I've actually recommended, where I say, "Well, if you want to play healer right now, because there's many ways you can play healer, I would say try Tempest." And everyone so far that I've recommended that to has been like, actually enjoy Tempest a lot more, and they just continue to play that versus Guardian, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I always like to get to know what they like to play first.
100%. So I just realized that I have a Discord event coming up where I'm doing rating 101. Yeah, that teacher in me is coming out again. I have kind of like an open Q&A for if people want to drop by. Sometimes nobody drops by, sometimes a few people drop by. Kind of depends. People can come and ask any kind of question they want. But anyway, I could talk for like another hour with you because we're now getting into like the fun, like how you learn things conversation, which is like I'm always a huge, I love talking about that stuff. It's super fun. But alas, we must end so that I can run to this other event. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. Give yourself a shout out. Tell people how they can find you. I'll of course put links in the description below on YouTube when this comes out.
Yeah, sure. So for now, uh, you can find some of my old. If you're into PvP, I still have a lot of relevant guides on PvP for Guild Wars 2. More about the foundations of like learning the mechanics, going step by step, very easy to digest. You're not learning about face on day one. So a lot of people found that helpful. But I typically stream like Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays on Twitch around 5 p.m. Central. It is competitive centric. Guild Wars 2 primarily focus, branching out into others, but I'm always open to trying any game. Yeah, I enjoyed this conversation as well. So I feel like feel free to just, if you ever need somebody to step in, or if you know, if you ever want to bring me back and talk more about anything else, you can
Yeah.
just hit me up on Discord.
I might, when push comes out, I might bring the PvP lords all together and just have like a big, have like 4 people, and we'll all just talk about PvP or something and push.
For
But
sure.
yeah, thanks again so much for being on, Kiba. I appreciate your time and everything this beautiful Sunday morning. But anyway, that's it for the episode. Thanks everybody for watching. Leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, do all those fun things, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah.